There's something Christopher Walken has been hiding for 40 years. It happened on a yacht near Catalina Island. 3 people went to sleep that night. Only 2 woke up. Natalie Wood was found floating in the Pacific, bruised and lifeless. Walken was there. So was her husband. Someone heard screaming. Someone threw a bottle. Someone knows exactly what happened. Now, at 82, new details are emerging. Details about jealousy, alcohol, and a fight that turned deadly. The captain finally spoke, and what Walken told investigators changes everything we thought we knew. He wasn't born Christopher. He wasn't even born into showbiz. He was Ronald Walken, a shy kid from Astoria, Queens, born on March 31, 1943. His mother, Rosalie, had escaped poverty in Glasgow, while his father, Paul, came from Germany and opened a small bakery. Paul changed their last name from Welken to Walken during the war. Being German in 1940s New York wasn't easy. Neighbors whispered. Customers hesitated. That feeling of being watched, of being different, stayed with Walken. It helped shape the eerie calm he later brought to his most unforgettable roles. But the real surprise? He started not with acting, but with dance. At just 3 years old, his mother enrolled him in a local studio. While other kids were barely out of nappies, Walken was learning tap, ballet, and acrobatics. By 5, he could pull off complicated routines. At 7, he was earning $50 a week dancing at the Majestic Theater in Brooklyn. That's like $600 today. He didn't just move well. He moved like someone who knew rhythm could tell stories just as powerfully as words. Every strut, pause, and glance he gave on screen later came from those dance floors. And he wasn't doing it alone. Walken had 2 brothers, Kenneth and Glenn. All 3 got pulled into the booming world of 1950s live television. The trick? Just show up. They'd linger around NBC's Rockefeller Center studios until someone needed furniture, kids who stood in the background. At $7 a day, it helped pay bills. Walken ended up on the Colgate Comedy Hour and The Wonderful John Acton, usually uncredited but always absorbing. He was watching how lights hit the face, how directors gave cues, how everything in showbiz ran like clockwork. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a masterclass in how the industry worked. He didn't stop there. At age 10, Walken enrolled in the Professional Children's School in Manhattan. It wasn't a normal school. Classes ended by lunch, and afternoons were filled with performance training, acting, singing, dancing. Students like Liza Minnelli and Elliot Gould shared the hallways. Teachers didn't just grade papers, they scouted talent. The school took a cut of their students' earnings, like an unofficial agent. Walken learned fast. This was a business. You show up, hit your mark, and deliver. No excuses. It gave him the discipline that would define his work for decades. Then came something totally unexpected. When he was 16, he spent a summer taming a lion. That's not a metaphor. He saw an ad in Variety from a small circus looking for a lion tamer, and he actually got the job. The lion, Sheba, was a 300-pound African female. She was considered tame, but there's no such thing when you're alone in a cage. Walken performed twice a day, earned $25 a week, and lived in a trailer. He later joked that once you've stared down a lion, no director on earth can scare you. It wasn't acting school, but it taught him presence, bravery, and stillness, and those traits never left. At just 16 years old, Ronnie Walken stepped onto a Broadway stage. It was 1959, and the play was J.B., a retelling of The Book of Job. This wasn't just some school play. It had won the Pulitzer Prize and the Tony for Best Play. A heavy story about suffering and faith, performed in front of New York critics and crowds. For a teenage kid from Queens, to land a role in something this big was rare. He wasn't doing musical numbers anymore. This was serious work, serious theater. And it gave him a taste of what real acting felt like: deep, emotional, and unforgettable. It was the first big step away from child roles and into the world of powerful drama. 2 years later, in 1961, he enrolled at Hofstra University. But college life didn't last long. Within a year, he dropped out. The reason? A job. Not just any job, but a part in the off-Broadway revival of Best Foot Forward, a musical originally from 1941. The paycheck helped. But more than that, it gave him real work with real actors. He didn't leave college out of boredom. He left because the world outside the classroom was already calling, and he trusted his gut. That choice, risky at the time, paid off. More roles started coming in. Throughout the 1960s, he was everywhere in theater. He tackled Shakespeare in Measure for Measure, took on Tennessee Williams in The Rose Tattoo, and then came The Lion in Winter. His performance earned him the Theatre World Award, which only went to the most promising newcomers. It wasn't luck. It was years of learning every line, every emotion, every gesture. He wasn't just another actor anymore. He was becoming a name people respected. In 1971, he made his film debut in The Anderson Tapes, directed by Sidney Lumet. The film starred Sean Connery as an ex-con planning a massive heist. Walken played another ex-con, part of the crew. It was a supporting role, but it mattered. The movie was ahead of its time, one of the first to talk about surveillance and hidden cameras, and Walken's presence didn't go unnoticed. Hollywood started paying attention. 6 years later, in 1977, he popped up in Annie Hall. He only had one scene, but it was enough. He played Dwayne, the brother of Diane Keaton's character. In a deadpan voice, he calmly talked about his fantasies of crashing his car head-on into traffic. Creepy, intense, and unforgettable. That one moment made a mark. The film went on to win 4 Oscars and 4 BAFTAs. It made over $38 million at the box office. And Walken? People were starting to remember his face. Then came 1978, The Deer Hunter, a film about the Vietnam War that changed everything for him. He played Nick, a steelworker turned soldier who ends up broken by the war. The movie cost $15 million and made $49 million. At the Oscars, it won 5 awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Supporting Actor for Walken. That role was gut-wrenching. People left theaters shaken. His parents even called him after watching it just to make sure he was okay. That's how real he made it feel. One scene in particular left a scar on cinema history: the Russian roulette scenes. Walken's character is forced to play the game in a Vietnamese prison camp. It was brutal, tense, and some said it wasn't historically accurate. Reporters claimed the Viet Cong never actually did that. But Roger Ebert defended the scenes, saying they worked as a symbol. Originally, the script had nothing to do with war. It was about men playing roulette in Las Vegas. Cimino changed it, moved it to Vietnam, and created something haunting. Years later, The Deer Hunter still stands beside Platoon, Apocalypse Now, and Full Metal Jacket as one of the greatest Vietnam War films ever made. After that performance, Cimino didn't let Walken go far. In 1980, he cast him again, this time in Heaven's Gate. The film was massive, but it crashed hard. Budgeted at around $11 million, it ballooned to $44 million, and it made just $3.5 million at the box office. The film flopped so badly that United Artists, the studio behind it, was sold. The era of director-driven films ended with that movie. Then came a big drama off-screen. It was supposed to be a quiet Thanksgiving weekend. On November 28, 1981, Christopher Walken joined Natalie Wood and her husband Robert Wagner aboard their 58-foot yacht, Splendor. They were heading to Santa Catalina Island. Also with them was the boat's captain, Dennis Davern. Walken and Wood were filming Brainstorm at the time, and the trip was meant to be a break from the set. But things turned dark fast. By the next morning, Natalie Wood was dead. Her body found floating in the Pacific Ocean, a mile from the boat. She was 43. There were bruises on her arms and face. Her blood alcohol level was 0.14. She also had painkillers and motion sickness pills in her system. No one knows for sure how she ended up in the water. And that silence has haunted Hollywood for over 40 years. Captain Davern later said something had been simmering for days. He claimed Natalie had grown close to Walken during the film shoot. Too close. He said their chemistry wasn't just for the cameras. According to him, the tension on that boat came from more than just strong drinks. It came from jealousy. Lana Wood, Natalie's sister, admitted there might have been feelings, but maybe just in Natalie's head. Still, the spark was enough to ignite something much worse. That night, everything blew up. Davern said he heard glass shatter. A bottle. Then Robert Wagner's voice, sharp and furious. "What are you trying to do? Fuck my wife?" he allegedly yelled at Walken. It wasn't just a petty fight. Wagner's anger filled the boat. The party turned cold. Wagner later said in his memoir that they argued about acting, not jealousy. But years later, in a 2020 documentary, he admitted that, yes, he and Walken fought over Natalie that night. After the yelling, Natalie left. She walked to her room, angry. Davern said Wagner followed her. What happened next, no one really knows, but it was loud. Davern called it a blazing row. By the next morning, Natalie was gone. Her body, bruised and lifeless, washed up near a dinghy that had drifted away. 2 people on a nearby boat said they heard a woman screaming that night, screaming for help. The official story called it an accident. But Natalie was terrified of water. She couldn't even swim. Her family never believed it. Walken barely spoke about it. In a 1986 interview, he shut it down fast. "I don't know what happened," he said. "She slipped and fell. I was in bed. It was a terrible thing." His eyes, according to the reporter, turned icy. In 1997, he offered another theory. He said maybe Natalie heard the dinghy hitting the boat and went out to tie it. That was it. But privately, he did talk to detectives when the case was reopened. Lana Wood said he told them everything on one condition: that they never reveal what he said. That silence has never been broken. Months before the tragedy, Walken had been dazzling audiences in a different way. In Pennies from Heaven, he played a tap-dancing pimp. Most people didn't know Walken had been dancing since he was 3. He trained in ballet, tap, and even toured in musicals as a kid. He did the film's big dance number in just 5 takes. No stops. Liza Minnelli said he reminded her of the MGM dancers from her childhood. That role led, 20 years later, to his unforgettable dance in the Fatboy Slim video, Weapon of Choice. In 1985, Walken took a darker turn. He played Max Zorin, the Bond villain in A View to a Kill. Zorin was a manic genius created through Nazi science experiments. He planned to destroy Silicon Valley to control the microchip market. Walken brought an eerie calm to the madness, but he had a secret fear. He was terrified of horses. So, for his scenes, they used an old mechanical horse from the 1940s, once used by Elizabeth Taylor. Even behind the scenes, the film sparked trouble. The real Zorin Corporation threatened to sue over the character's name, forcing the producers to add a legal disclaimer. 2 years earlier, in 1983, Walken starred in The Dead Zone, based on a Stephen King novel. He played Johnny Smith, a man who wakes from a coma with psychic powers. Every touch gave him visions, some tragic, some terrifying. He saw a woman's daughter trapped in a fire. He saw a future where a politician, played by Martin Sheen, becomes president and brings nuclear war. Walken's performance was haunting. He made the character both gentle and tortured. Critics praised the way he captured a man broken by the weight of his gift. Working with director David Cronenberg on The Dead Zone gave Walken the chance to dive deep into psychological horror. The film earned an 89% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Cronenberg's dark, restrained style let Walken's performance breathe. He spoke in slow, thoughtful bursts. Each pause added weight. It wasn't just scary, it was sad. The partnership showed that Walken could lead a film with quiet intensity, not just play strange supporting roles, but Walken wasn't always dark. He could be surprisingly funny. In Wayne's World 2, he played a smooth-talking music producer. In Saturday Night Live, he became legendary in the More Cowbell sketch. As Bruce Dickinson, he delivered the now iconic line with deadly seriousness, "I gotta have more cowbell." The joke became so big that people still shouted at him decades later. He also popped up in comedies like Joe Dirt, Mouse Hunt, and America's Sweethearts, often playing oddballs who steal the scene. What made his comedy work? He never treated it like a joke. He played it straight, and that made it even funnier. Christopher Walken met Georgianne Thawn in 1963 while they were performing together in a touring production of West Side Story. They played a couple on stage, but the connection was more than just acting. Georgianne later said, "When you met him, you knew he had this future. I had never met anybody like that in my life." They dated for 6 years and finally got married in January 1969. That was over 56 years ago. What's remarkable is how Georgianne quietly shifted her entire career path, from acting to casting, just to support Christopher. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was a smart, strategic move. She saw what he could become and helped clear the path for it. Their whole relationship was built on teamwork, not just romance. Georgianne didn't just fade into the background. She built a career that would make her a legend in her own right. Starting in 1989, she worked on more than 80 movies and TV shows as a casting director. Alongside Sheila Jaffe, she co-founded Walken Jaffe, and together they reshaped modern television. Their most famous success? The Sopranos. That one show changed TV forever, and they were the ones who decided who would play each role. They also cast Entourage and a wide mix of films: Basquiat, Monkey Bone, Bedazzled, Black Knight, Two Girls and a Guy, and more. Georgianne even made a cameo in The Sopranos in 2006, proving she never truly left acting behind. She didn't just ride her husband's fame, she carved out her own legacy. One of the boldest choices they made as a couple was to not have children. Walken has always been brutally honest about it. In a 2005 interview, he said, "I don't have children, and I'm glad that I don't have children." He loves his nieces and nephews, but is just as glad when they leave. He believes his career wouldn't have survived if he had kids. Friends he grew up with had to quit acting when they became parents. Walken didn't. He stayed free, ready to work whenever the phone rang. That's how he kept going through long, dry spells. He said it plainly, "I don't have kids, I don't have hobbies, I don't like to travel, but I like to go to work." For him, acting is everything. His approach to life is just as unusual as his career. He's 82 now, and he's never owned a mobile phone. Not once. No computer. No email. When he needs to make a call, he borrows a phone. On set, this often means asking a random crew member for their mobile. He doesn't even wear a watch. He just asks people for the time. This isn't a case of not understanding technology. It's a deliberate choice. He prefers life without digital noise. Everything he does, every call, every appointment, goes through agents or assistants. It's an old-school way of living in a hyper-connected world, and he seems to love it. Then there's his wardrobe. Walken doesn't shop for clothes. He steals them from movie sets. He admitted it. Every film he works on, he takes a few items home. It's not just thriftiness. In 2010, fans noticed he was wearing a jacket from his 1990 film, The Comfort of Strangers, at a press event. He wasn't showing it off. It was just his jacket. The studio had given up on trying to stop him. Some even budget for it now, calling it a clothing tax. His clothes are basically a timeline of his entire film career. Every outfit tells a story, and it's all mixed into his everyday style. In 2010, Walken quit theater forever. The reason? Audience members using their phones during shows. He was performing on Broadway in A.B. Handing in Spokane, and people kept answering calls mid-performance. It shattered the experience for him. Live theater relies on a shared focus, a silent bond between actor and audience. When that broke, Walken walked away. He had been performing on stage for decades, starting with musicals in his youth, then serious dramas. But once the respect was gone, so was he. He never went back. It wasn't about ego. It was about preserving the integrity of the craft. At home, he lives like it's still the 1980s. His TV is satellite only. He watches old movies, the news, and sports. No streaming, no Netflix, no binge watching. He even gets DVDs mailed to him by studios. Real, physical discs. It's all intentional. He likes the old way of doing things. He reads the DVD notes. He watches movies from start to finish. No skipping, no distractions. It's about enjoying the full experience, just like films used to be. He might follow the news, but entertainment? That stays stuck in time. And finally, there's the weed. Walken doesn't hide it. When asked if he gets high, he said yes. For him, it's about creativity. It's not about partying. It's a tool. Something that helps loosen the mind and unlock something strange and brilliant. Given how eccentric and unexpected his acting often is, this makes perfect sense. Christopher Walken never plays a role the way anyone expects. That's the point. His style is strange, secretive, and sometimes downright absurd. But somehow, it always works. Take one of his films where he had to dye his hair a bizarre, fake-looking color. Instead of just going along with the script, he created a private joke inside his own mind. In every scene, whether it was serious, romantic, or full of action, Walken was silently thinking the same thing. What do you think of my hair? No matter what the lines said, his thoughts were stuck on that one question. He imagined everyone was staring at his terrible hair, and it quietly shaped how he delivered every word. The audience didn't know, but they could feel something was off. And that was the magic. Sometimes he takes things even further. While acting, he might pretend he's someone completely different on the inside, like Elvis Presley, Bugs Bunny, or even a German U-boat commander. Meanwhile, outside, he still delivers the script like he's supposed to. No one around him has any idea what's going on in his head. Not the director, not the other actors. He never tells them. But this inner role play changes how he moves, speaks, and reacts. He says it helps him reach emotions he might not find otherwise. It's like he's playing two roles at once. One for the audience, and one just for him. And yet, for all his success, Walken admits he struggles with something basic: remembering his lines. Memorizing dialogue has never come easy to him. Even after decades of acting, it's still the same battle. He calls it pounding lines. He stands in his kitchen for hours, repeating his lines out loud while cooking or doing chores. Chicken in one hand, script in the other. He believes distractions actually help the lines stick. But if someone gives him a new scene 2 days before filming, he panics. He needs time. A lot of time. What takes others hours might take him weeks. But somehow, the struggle never shows. Like in Pulp Fiction, where he gave one of the most disturbing and unforgettable monologues in movie history. He played Captain Coons, who delivers a family heirloom, a gold watch, to a little boy. But the story behind the watch is far from heartwarming. It passed through 3 generations, from World War I to Vietnam. Walken's character explains, without flinching, that both the boy's father and Coons hid the watch inside their bodies during years of imprisonment. "I hid this uncomfortable hunk of metal up my ass for 2 years," he says with perfect seriousness, to a child. It's horrifying and hilarious all at once, and only Walken could make it feel both sincere and ridiculous. 8 years later, he earned his 2nd Oscar nomination in Catch Me If You Can. This time, he wasn't playing weird or creepy. He was heartbroken. Walken played Frank Abagnale Sr., the sad, disappointed father of a teenage con artist. Unlike his usual roles, this one was grounded and deeply human. His son, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, runs away into a world of lies. But Walken's performance stays real. He's just a man whose life fell apart. The role won him a BAFTA, a SAG award, and that Oscar nomination. No gimmicks, just pain and pride. Even when he steps into wild fantasy, Walken finds a way to stand out. In Sleepy Hollow, he played the Headless Horseman. He wore heavy prosthetics and rode a mechanical horse that, funnily enough, had been used decades earlier in Elizabeth Taylor's National Velvet. He had no lines, just growls and physicality, but he made it terrifying. The film's effects team built headless costumes, mechanical birds, and fake bats just to pull off the illusion. But Walken's intense presence brought the creature to life in a way no technology could. Recently, at age 81, he returned to massive blockbuster territory in Dune Part Two. He played Emperor Shaddam IV, the ruthless ruler of the known universe. Fans waited for his character to appear ever since Part One. And when he finally showed up, it was Walken. Calm, strange, powerful. He joined a cast full of younger stars, like Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya, and still managed to hold his own. The movie was delayed, but the wait only built anticipation. Walken delivered, as always. What's even more impressive is that he hasn't slowed down. He keeps working with the same energy he had decades ago. His recent role in the Apple TV Plus series Severance earned him an Emmy nomination. The show explores eerie workplace themes, and Walken plays an elderly employee caught between 2 lives. It's a quiet, haunting performance, and another reminder of just how much he can do without saying much at all. His films have earned over $1.8 billion in the US alone, a staggering number for someone often known for weird roles. That weirdness, though, is exactly what made him a legend. Walken has always embraced the offbeat, the strange, the dangerous. He said it himself. He likes roles that are a little off-center. Directors love him for it. Quentin Tarantino once said Walken's appearance in True Romance was one of the best things he ever filmed, and critics agree. His Oscar-winning role in The Deer Hunter was ranked one of the greatest film performances of all time. Even his role in Pennies from Heaven made a list of the top 100 performances that should have won Oscars. And yet, despite all the fame, Walken remains mysterious. In an age when every celebrity posts on social media, shares their meals, their thoughts, their lives, Walken does none of it. He's never owned a cell phone. He doesn't use email. He's never touched Twitter or Instagram. If producers want to send him a script, they mail him a DVD. Old school. He says he just missed the tech wave and never caught up. And maybe that's a good thing. In staying offline, he's preserved a sense of mystery that most stars have lost.